Hi, Adam.
Hello, everyone.
We'll be starting the webinar in another 2 minutes. So we can just wait for everyone to join in.
That is an interesting library behind you.
Yeah. We'll be starting in another 10-20 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. Mostly everyone has joined in. All right, I think we can start now. So, hi everyone. Welcome. Thank you for connecting for our webinar today on disaster recovery planning for digital assets. My name is Khushbu, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. In today's digital age, our digital asset security is of paramount importance, whether it be personal information or business related data. Any loss or breach can have devastating consequences. Unfortunately, the risk of cyber attacks, natural disasters, and other unforeseen circumstances pose a significant threat to the safety of our digital assets. Therefore, it's crucial to acknowledge these risks. That's why we have gathered here today to delve deeper into the challenges of safeguarding digital assets from various threats. Our expert speaker, Adam, will be sharing his valuable insights on the importance of having a disaster recovery plan in place and how to formulate the best strategies to mitigate any potential risk. By the end of this webinar, you will have a better understanding of how to protect your digital assets and create an effective disaster recovery plan. We have the pleasure of welcoming our guest speaker, Adam Blumberg. He's a certified financial planner with over 13 years of experience and the co-founder of Planner DAO and Interaxis, which are decentralized communities for financial professionals and a crypto education platform, respectively. Adam, could you please give us a brief overview of today's webinar? Over to you.
Sure. So today we're going to talk a little bit about disaster recovery planning, especially as it relates to digital assets and specifically crypto. In the past few webinars, we've talked about legacy planning or estate planning, things that happen, primarily if I die. But in this case, we want to talk about, obviously death is a pretty big disaster for most of us. But we want to talk about the other disasters that can happen in regard to your crypto or digital assets and how to plan for those. So that's what we'll be discussing today.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Adam. We look forward to learning more. Also, everyone, towards the end of the webinar, we'll hold a Q&A session. And also, if you're comfortable, you can definitely ask questions in between as well. Adam will be happy to take them up. Our goal is to make you feel more confident and comfortable in developing a disaster recovery plan for your digital assets. So I hope this helps. And in order to kick off the webinar, let's start with a few questions. Please select the option that best describes your profession, or you can also share your answer in the chat box. There is a poll, a question that's going to come up in front of your screens just right about now. So I'm going to give 5 seconds for all of you to answer. Okay, I can see answers coming up. So a lot of estate lawyers with us. That's great. Great, awesome. I think we can start now. I'll just share my screen very quickly. Just give me a second. All right, I think we're good. Adam, over to you. You can take over now.
All right, let's talk about disaster recovery planning. And we're mainly talking about this, of course, from the perspective of the wealth manager, the financial advisor, the attorney, whoever, basically someone helping someone else with their money. And I come into this, of course, as a financial advisor, someone who teaches crypto to other financial professionals. But I will let you all know that I also, before my career as a financial advisor, which I started in early 2009, before that, I owned an IT company. We were an IT service company, and I had that company from about 2002 until I sold it in 2008. And we actually did a lot of what we call disaster recovery planning, because disaster recovery planning in that instance, disaster planning, recovery planning, whatever we want to call it, fits kind of more into the technology world, because it is what happens if I lose access to my data, right? What happens in those cases? It was what happens if my email server goes down? These are in the days when people actually had email servers in their office, or hosted somewhere else. This was before the ubiquitous Gmail or other hosted email services. This is when data backup was often done on tapes or disks or something. There was a data backup process. You didn't just back up to the cloud all the time. So we had disaster recovery planning for digital assets, but in this case, digital assets meant actual data that oftentimes a business would use. If we roll forward into kind of the idea of disaster recovery or disaster planning for financial services, when you're talking about someone's finances, that doesn't really exist all that much. So in the world of, and remember, when I talk about this, I always try to go back to what we see in the traditional finance world. And in the traditional finance world, disaster planning or disaster recovery planning is usually something where we go, all right, let's work through what happens if something financially very hurtful or even devastating happens to you. How are we going to prepare and plan for that? And it ends up being relatively reactive. So things like I lose my job, or I lose, or I die, I become disabled, I get in a car accident, there's a storm and I end up with hail damage in my house, something like that. We plan for those kinds of quote disasters because they can so negatively affect our finances. And we say, okay, how do I plan for that? Is it that I have an emergency fund in case I lose my job? Is it that I have multiple sources of income? Is it that I have, obviously life insurance, I have disability insurance, I have homeowners insurance, I have auto insurance, I have liability insurance? Because all of those are events that I might or might not have some control over, but I definitely have control over the ability to make sure that I and my family can be made relatively whole from a financial perspective. And that's kind of what we've seen in the traditional world in terms of, as I'll call it, disaster planning, disaster recovery planning. It's the idea of getting back to where I was financially, even when something negative happens. Now, what we see with kind of crypto or digital asset disaster recovery planning is actually a bit more akin to my IT career. What I saw in my IT career, which was we need to look at what all those different, in crypto we call them attack vectors, what those entry points are. Where can things go wrong in my digital asset storage, in my digital asset ownership structure, such that, and knowing full well, and here's the really important part of where crypto differs from traditional, right? In traditional assets, I don't necessarily have to plan for the disasters of someone hacks into my bank account, or someone hacks into my investment account or something, because the companies that I'm using to custody assets, whether that custody is dollars or that custody is securities or investments, those companies, one, have measures in place. Two, those companies have insurance such that if I get hacked, if my bank account gets hacked, which it has done, all of us have likely had our credit card hacked, our bank account hacked, something like that, where someone steals your credit card number. Those companies have processes in place for that. I don't need to be thinking about that necessarily. There could be the short-term inconvenience of I got to wait for them to send me a new credit card. I got to change up all of my direct deposits, or I have to change up um, all the bills that I pay using my credit card, all the auto pay. But that's not really that much of a disaster. That's just more of an inconvenience. So in TradFi or in traditional finance, we see it to where the planning I'm doing is more for something happens, negatively impacts my financial situation. I need to plan for it. On the crypto or digital asset side, it's more of I need to plan for if someone does, or need to plan so that someone can't necessarily hack my network. Or what if I lose my keys or lose my account access? Because that could be detrimental to the point that my money might be gone. It might be lost forever. There aren't necessarily processes in place with something like a hard wallet, or storing crypto assets in cold storage or in a hard wallet, that is a normal process for a traditional custodian, such that they all of a sudden give me all my money back. So we need to plan ahead of time. It's very proactive planning. It's not necessarily planning that, oh, in case something happens, here's how I make myself whole. This planning is, I hope it doesn't ever happen. Or if it happens, I have to get access. It's not that I have to get my money back, it's I have to get access to my money again. And that's kind of the difference here. And I apologize. I haven't been moving through the slides. Do we need to move through any of the slides right now? I'm just talking based on kind of a mind map that I've done.
We can move on to the slide.
Okay. So with that, okay, when we move from the traditional asset planning to the disasters that could affect me and my digital assets, right? There's cybersecurity threats. So there are threats of like, I could get a virus on my computer. I could get phishing attack on my computer. I could get some sort of malicious code on my computer, or something that's connected to the network. It could be on my phone, whatever it might be. So there are kind of cybersecurity threats that I have to be watching out for and planning for. There are, natural disasters. And in this case, a natural disaster could affect my phone or my computer, but it could also affect the internet. And we have to remember that if I'm counting on my digital assets, if I'm counting on having them or using them, if I use decentralized finance, if I'm going to have access to my Bitcoin or my ETH or USDC or DAI or something, and I don't have access to the internet, that's in this case kind of a disaster. And I could not have access to the internet because there's a storm or a flood, it knocks out power, or whatever it might be. Some common disasters, around hardware failure. If I have my assets on a hard wallet and I lose that hard wallet, what's my plan? What's my plan for hard wallet failure? What if it doesn't work anymore? What if, there's just silly little things like I use Apple computers, I use MacBooks, and they changed the input output. They changed from USB to, what was it, USB 2 to USB-C now. Well, I have to be able to now connect my hard wallet in there, which seems kind of silly, but those are little things I have to plan for. When I travel and I know that I'm going to have my crypto with me, I might take my hard wallet. Plus, I need to take an adapter with me to make sure that I'm prepared. And I know this isn't really a disaster, but as people get more into actually utilizing their crypto assets, it becomes relevant. As people get into, larger sums of wealth, it becomes relevant, because the fact that my assets are now portable is actually part of the appeal of crypto. The fact that I can take them with me. It's not like walking through an airport with a whole bunch of cash or a whole bunch of gold bars. I can take a little hard wallet with me, but what could happen, what could go wrong there. And then another common disaster is either human error or theft. Human error, something like, what if I've written down my seed phrases or my seed phrase or my keys and I lose them, or they get stolen, or they get torn up, or accidentally thrown away, or wet, or something. How am I preparing myself? The other preparation I need to make in that regard is, um, how am I making sure that my family understands what this is and how to use it? How do I make sure that, if my daughter's running around my house and happens to find a piece of paper with 24 words on it, she doesn't start showing it around to her friends or takes it to school or anything like that. She doesn't think it's some sort of poem I've written and takes it to school and shows everyone. I have to start thinking ahead of what could go wrong and planning for it proactively, because the disaster that can happen if I haven't planned proactively is awfully negative, right? So that's a little bit about how crypto is different. And then as we go through everything on this slide right here that we're looking at, as we go through some of these disasters, in my mind, and again, there's no perfect way to do disaster recovery planning for crypto yet, because honestly, it hadn't been around long enough. There hasn't been enough people using it. But here's how I think about it. And again, some of this is just my opinion. Some of it is talking to other advisors. Some of it is talking to other people in crypto. But here's how I try to think through it. If I go through what some of these threats are, what some of these disasters that could happen, and how I choose to hold my crypto assets, how I choose to hold my digital assets. Let me think through what could potentially go wrong, and then what solutions I have in place such that I can recover, such that I can still get to my assets. So one thought on the side of how I want to hold my assets, right? Let's say I have a Coinbase account or a Kraken account, some sort of exchange account, right? That account, obviously, I want to make sure that I have that I have a my username, which is likely going to be my email address. I need to make sure I have a really strong password, and I need to make sure I have two-factor authentication set up, right? So those are some of the ways that I'm avoiding, because in this case, what I'm looking for is disaster avoidance, right? I want to make sure I have a strong password. So maybe I'm using some sort of password generator, and I want to make sure that I don't lose that password. Right. Now, I mean, for me, I use a password, password management tool. I used to use LastPass. I don't use LastPass anymore. They got hacked too many times, too centralized. I use one called Bitwarden, because Bitwarden is open source software. It is not there's no centralized server or anything. So I like using Bitwarden for holding on to my um, passwords. It generates them and then it saves them for me. And it's done on it. I have it on my phone. I have it on my computer as a browser extension. Um, and I also know that if I lose my computer, if I lose my phone, whatever, all I have to remember is my Bitwarden master password, master password, and I can get a new computer, I can get a new phone, whatever, and I can put Bitwarden back on, and I have all my passwords back there. Okay, so if the disaster is I lose my computer, I lose my phone, whatever, and I don't have easy access to go, here's the password, then bam, I can get a new one, I can get a new Bitwarden, and I can get those passwords. So that's really important. The other part of that is the two-factor authentication, right? So if I have a Coinbase account or a Kraken account and I put in my password and then I use two-factor authentication, I need to make sure that I have stored the two-factor authentication code, because when you do 2FA, whether you use Google Authenticator or one of the others, you get a code and it says write this code down or store it or whatever. And I need to make sure I store that, because if I lose my phone and my 2FA is on my phone, it is not very easy to and then I get a new phone, I put everything back on. It won't necessarily have all my two-factor authentication links in there. It won't necessarily have all those in there. I need to be able to put them back on. The way I can do that is I can put that long hexadecimal string of numbers in, and bam, my Coinbase 2FA is back on my phone, such that I can log into my Coinbase account again. In the absence of having something like that, if I lose my phone and I can't put Google Authenticator back on my phone in the way I had it before, The problem is I might have to wait like 7 days to get into my Coinbase account while they verify my identity. So that could be a problem. And so, again, as I'm thinking through these things, as I'm thinking through what I'm going to do with my password and two-factor authentication, what I'm going to do with if I choose a Coinbase, if I choose to have some of my assets in centralized custody or centralization, that's just my on and off ramp, right? Coinbase might just be my on and off ramp, but I want to make sure that that doesn't get compromised. I want to make sure that I don't lose access to that account. So I'm going to make sure that that I have a strong password, that it's backed up somewhere in some sort of password manager. And I'm going to make sure that my two-factor authentication for my Coinbase account or my Kraken account is backed up, such that if the disaster is I lose my computer or I lose my phone in some form or fashion, and that could be I drop it and it breaks. It could be, and I'll tell you all, 2 weeks ago, my laptop absolutely just went black. I was typing away and it just went black and it never recovered. I any data that was on there was lost. Uh, and I had to go take it back to the Apple store. They had to basically put a new board on, but that means everything that was on there was lost. I had to put everything back on. Well, so I have been through this kind of disaster recovery very, very recently. I used Bitwarden for my passwords. I didn't have to I didn't have to go through the forgot password thing on any sites. And that includes bank sites, that includes crypto sites, nothing that I have to go back through and forgot my password. I didn't have to deal with two-factor authentication because that's on my phone. I did have to I have and I'll go through this later, but I have MetaMask, as a browser extension. I did have to put MetaMask back on the new laptop, and in order to do that, I had to have the seed phrase. So we'll go through that in a moment. But that's one thing I had to have is I had to have the seed phrases for my various wallets that I had as browser extensions, and I had several browser extension wallets because I try out a lot of them. But I had to have the seed phrases ready to go, and fortunately, I had a process for that. So I've kind of been through this. Now we see some of the tools you can use. So Cloaker is a tool that allows me to store my digital assets. So it could be account usernames and passwords. It could be if we get into crypto legacy, it's a similar system in that it helps me store my seed phrases. And there's two reasons why I'm doing this. One is, let's say that I die or become disabled. I leave directives as to how my family or how my trustees or how my beneficiaries are to access my wallets, access my passwords. But these tools, Cloaker, Crypto Legacy, Vault 12, they also work for disaster recovery that says, look, if I just lose my seed phrases, so I can tell you all a story where everyone thought the safest thing I could do with my seed phrases was I write them down on a piece of paper and I stick them in a safe deposit box. What's safer than a safe deposit box at a bank? But what happened with this one person I know, and he actually lost a tremendous amount of crypto at the time because of it. This was back in 2017. So you can imagine what that's worth now. But lost a tremendous amount of crypto because he wrote it down on pieces of paper, put it in a bank safe deposit box. And I live in Houston, Texas. We had a hurricane called Hurricane Harvey that dumped 55 inches of water in 2 days on the city. And a lot of bank vaults, almost all bank vaults that have safe deposit boxes are on the ground floor or below of banks, and they flooded. And when water sits inside of a safe deposit box for several days, chances are it's going to dissolve all the paper that's in there. And so this person did not have his seed phrases anymore, even though he thought this was the safest thing he could possibly do. So we need to have backups. Sometimes the backup is a technology like you're seeing here, like Cloaker Crypto Legacy Vault 12, that will store my seed phrase such that if I do have some sort of disaster, I can go get my seed phrase back. It's not restoring my wallet. It's not by a smart contract creating a new wallet or anything like that. It's just like, hey, I can't find my seed phrase. We know, as wealth advisors, as estate attorneys and such, know that some of the problem with the user interface or the user experience of crypto is this fear that If I lose my seed phrase, all my crypto is gone. So this is a way that we can take away some of that fear, is by using tools like this. So I'll move on a little bit. So again, I'm talking about how I go through some of these scenarios. How am I holding, in this case, my digital assets or my crypto, and what do I need to use it, and therefore what could go wrong? Where are the different entry points? So I talked already a little bit about what if I'm holding it on a centralized custodian like a Coinbase or a Kraken. Where are the kind of quote attack vectors? What can I do? Other attack vectors for something like Coinbase or Kraken is just simple cybersecurity, right? I need to make sure that there's not a key logger that's watching what I do online. I also want to be very cognizant of making sure that there aren't viruses on my computer that are going to give people access. I also want to make sure that if I'm going to, and this seems like a kind of a silly one, but I also want to make sure when I'm going to an exchange like a Coinbase, or I'm even interacting with some sort of protocol online on my computer, I want to make sure that I'm on the right website. I want to make sure that I'm not on one that's looks identical, where the URL looks so similar that I can't tell the difference. I need to make sure I do things like bookmark the protocols that I use regularly, bookmark the exchanges I use regularly, because if I go do a Google search for Coinbase, I might come up with the actual Coinbase site, but there might be a link in there that is Coinbase, but instead of an I, there's a 1, but I don't really notice it, and therefore I just gave all my information to someone through a phishing attack. Right? I need to be cognizant about things like emails. What's happening when I get an email from an exchange, from a wallet company, from whoever, and it deals with crypto, and there's a link. I want to be very careful about hitting links. I generally don't do it if I can help it. I don't hit any links if I can help it, because I don't feel like I don't feel like that some of those companies would send me a link to reset my password out of the blue, or send me a link to tell me I need to go interact with some protocol or interact with some part of my account out of the blue. I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna know about it, and then I might go log in myself using my bookmark. So that's a little bit about how I'm thinking through what are the disasters that could happen, and then how am I planning for those. And again, I can use technology for a good amount of this. So now, any questions so far? Any thoughts?
I
No,
will.
no,
Yeah.
we're good. Okay. So
Yeah,
then,
I think, yeah, we're good.
I think about what happens if I've moved assets off of an exchange into something like a hard wallet or a soft wallet, right? It might be something that is on my a wallet on my phone. It might be a hard wallet like a Ledger or Trezor, some sort of device like that. Now I have to plan my disaster recovery a little bit differently. What are the disasters that could happen in that regard? And some of the disaster that, can you all still hear me? I just want to make sure you can still hear me. I just had a funny
Yes. Yes,
thing
Adam, we
pop
can
up.
hear
Okay, perfect. Okay. Um, so some of the disasters that can happen if I move assets into my keys is, again, I've talked about this a little bit already. Let me walk through what could happen. I could lose the actual hard wallet. I could lose the actual device. Okay, then I know the disaster recovery method for that is I just have to have a seed phrase. I can get a new device, and that doesn't matter. If someone has the device, if I lose it, if it breaks, if it stops working, whatever, the actual device doesn't really matter as much as having the seed phrase. So if my ledger gets lost or broken or stolen or something, as long as the seed phrase isn't with it, I can get a new ledger. When I go to set up that ledger, I'm asked, do you want to set up a new device or restore? I just choose restore, and bam, I put my seed phrase back in, and I'm back in business. I have the same access, the same control over my crypto that I had before. That is part of disaster recovery planning, right? The disaster is I lost the actual device that allows me to interact with the blockchain. However, I now have the seed phrase. I still have the seed phrase, which means I can still interact, right? I can still interact with blockchain technology. So
Adam,
that's what, yes.
so William has asked a question. He's asked, what hardware wallets would you recommend stay away from, if any?
Which ones to stay away from? Oh, that, I don't know if there are any I recommend you stay away from, just because I honestly have not tried them all. I apologize. I haven't tried them all. I have a ledger. I've tried several, and they all seem to work fine. I have a ledger. I have a Trezor. I've had a Keep Key, which I'm not even 100% sure if Keep Key is around, but I have it. I have something called a Grid Plus, and a Grid Plus. Hold on one second. I don't know if you all have seen this, but if you are, and this is talking about, I apologize for stepping away for a moment. If you are, and I'm not doing a commercial for them, but if you're thinking about, if you're an advisor, if you're a attorney, whatever, and you're helping out your clients specifically with their crypto, I don't know if you all have seen this. This is a Grid Plus. The nice thing about this is, as we talked about some of those attack vectors, what if someone puts software on my computer that's a keylogger? Or what if someone puts software on my computer that they're able to, once I connect my ledger, they're able to take my assets off of there? This device does not connect to my laptop. So there's no way for there to be malicious software on my computer that then gets to this device. This device here actually connects directly to the internet, either via Wi-Fi or via Ethernet. So this is the only thing accessing the internet at any point. It doesn't go through my computer. And the beauty of it is it comes with these cards that look kind of like a credit card. So this is actually the wallet. So nothing happens until I put this in here. And now I can interact on this screen, which, by the way, puts out code like smart contracts and such in a way that's actually human readable. So if you like, the question was, which would you not recommend? And I'm giving you the ones that I recommend. If you're like a financial advisor or a state attorney and you're helping clients with their crypto, you can have this in your office. You can give your client this as their key, as kind of their wallet. And these two together allow you to interact. Okay, so this is actually kind of a decent solution. And it solves some of those problems, like it gets you off of the internet, right? You're not, it's not like a laptop where there's so many different attack vectors that can get you on the internet or get you that you could have issues. The other thing that I think is really important to point out to everybody is, when you purchase those, and you all probably know this, but when your clients, when anyone is purchasing those hard wallets, a Ledger, Trezor, whatever, I always buy directly from the manufacturer. And the reason why I buy directly from the manufacturer is because then I can be relatively certain that they packaged it up, nothing changed, and it got shipped to me. Okay, I've had people, I've known that people will have bought Ledger wallets or Trezor wallets from Amazon or eBay or whatever, and the problem there is you're buying from you're buying from somebody else. And what used to happen is someone would buy 25 Ledger wallets from Ledger. They would bring them to their home, I guess. They would unwrap them. They would put some sort of malicious software on there, wrap them back up, sell them on Amazon, usually a little bit cheaper than Ledger did, which is how they got to be able to sell some. And then you receive that Ledger wallet, you set it all up, you put your first Bitcoin on there, and that person that sold it to you has malicious software, and they just take your Bitcoin, right? So again, part of disaster recovery planning is the advanced planning that says, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Okay, so let's see who asked. William, I know you asked which not to use, and I can't tell you which ones not to use because I just told you the 4 that I have used in the past that work fine. I don't know which. I know there are some newer ones out there, and I apologize. I just haven't played with enough new hard wallets lately to know which ones to not use, which ones don't work well or to not use. So I hope that helps a little bit. So as we're walking down this road of what happens if I move assets outside into another wallet, there's the idea of the hard wallet, right? There's a physical hard wallet, but we all know that the seed phrase is most important. How am I protecting my seed phrase? And how am I making it to where if I lose my seed phrase, I can recover or I can avoid a disaster. So let's say I have my seed phrases written down and I have them in a certain place and they get lost or they get stolen or they get, there's flood or fire or something happens, right? I'm actually getting ready to move homes. What happens if they get lost in the move? Well, that's where I know that connecting my Ledger wallet without the seed phrase doesn't do anything for me. I need to make sure that I have the seed phrase. So the seed phrase is important. What can I do? I need to think about how can I keep those seed phrases safe? How can I keep them um, to where I don't lose them? But if I do lose them, what happens? What do I do? Well, if I have them written down and I lose them, one, I need to guard against two things. One, if I lose them and I never get them back, then that crypto that's on that wallet is lost forever, right? If I lose them such that someone else gets them and knows what to do with them, then my crypto is not only lost forever, but it's actually likely stolen at that point. It's actually taken from me. So what can I do? Well, what I need to make sure that I do is, again, not make sure, but some of my best practices are I will use an application like Crypto Legacy to say, this is where my seed phrases are going to get stored. And such that if I lose them, if I lose the paper version or something, I can actually get them back. I can see, I can put in certain information. I can see those seed phrases now. Therefore, I can I can decide, you know what? I don't like that now my seed phrase has been given to me by a computer or something. What I can then do is go, all right, I'm going to create a new wallet. I'm going to move all my crypto assets into that new wallet. And that is my kind of disaster recovery. Um, because we've all heard horror stories about people either losing their seed phrase or dying and not leaving the seed phrase to someone else. And what we want to make sure is that doesn't happen. We want to make sure that we continue to have access or our family continues to have access to the digital assets that we have accumulated, that we've stored, that is part of our wealth. And so I will use software like Crypto Legacy to make sure that my seed phrases, my private keys are stored in a way that even as I'm alive, if something happens, if I lose the written down version, if I just totally forget, if I lose my wallet, I'm able to restore because the restoration is what allows me to continue to access my digital assets, which in our case is really the most important part. The same, I talked about it really briefly in regard to my MetaMask wallet, right? I don't store a whole lot on my MetaMask wallet, but I use it for transactions. I use it for small things, but I like to have, obviously I want to make sure I always have access to it. So when this thing happened with my laptop, that it just went dead, I knew exactly where my seed phrases were, such that when I got the new laptop, when I put everything back on it, I put the MetaMask extension back onto my browser. And then I knew where my seed phrase was. I just restored it and bam, everything was back on. Okay. So I didn't have to worry about that. That was not a worry. And I had several other, again, wallets for different chains. So most of it is just stuff I play around with. And I was able to restore those very quickly. Okay. I know where all my seed phrases are. I know where what technology I use, and those are just some of my best practices. It says, as I move farther away from having things in centralized custody, as I move into more decentralized or more self-custody, I know that so many of the things that can happen are some of them are self-imposed, meaning I lose, something gets stolen from me, they get wet, they burn, whatever it might be. I want to make sure that I'm protecting against those things for myself. When it comes to malicious acts, right? Someone comes into wherever I store my seed phrases and steals them all. I need to know what my disaster recovery is in that realm. And again, it's kind of the same. I know where my seed phrases are. I'm going to log in. I'm going to go to those wallets and I'm going to move all my assets out. That's my disaster recovery. So if someone steals my seed phrases, hopefully they haven't gone, hopefully it hasn't happened so quickly that they're able to take assets out of my wallet. But then I can go into those wallets. I can move assets into a brand new one. I can spin up or create a brand new one and move all those assets out. Right. And that theft of my seed phrase could be because I have it written down on a piece of paper and someone takes it. It could be because I'm not thinking. I get an email or I get some request on Discord or something, and I'm not thinking much about it, and someone says, oh, well, if you give me your seed phrase, I can help you out. Which, by the way, I assume everyone on this call knows, don't ever, 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 ever do that. But you might have clients that do that. And they're like, oh my gosh, I gave someone my seed phrase. Well, the response there is, all right, let's have the process in place that says, okay, you're going to use your seed phrase. You're going to get it in that wallet. And you're going to move all your assets out as quickly as you can. That's the protocol there. So much of this ends up being just human developed protocol. Some of it ends up being technology that you have to use to actually store some of that material, store some of that key material, such that or store some of those passwords, or store some of that two-factor authentication code, such that if I lose those things, if they get taken from me for a number of different reasons or circumstances, I can restore them. And then, of course, there's the ultimate disaster of I die or become disabled, which we've talked about in previous sessions. But it's the same thing. I can use this technology along with some sort of legal precedent, like a will that says, when I die, my family, my daughter will get my crypto. And by the way, here's how she accesses this technology like crypto legacy, such that she can get the seed phrase. And then, as I've talked about before, it is incumbent on me to make sure that my daughter then understands how to use it, right? And again, we've talked about legacy and estate planning before. It's not the crux of this particular talk, but I wanted to make sure that's a disaster too. I have to make sure I plan for that. So with that, I will stop, pause, whatever, see if there are any questions.
I think there are no questions.
Okay.
But I will think after we play this video, I'll open the floor to questions. I'll allow everyone to open their mic and ask any questions that they may have. So before I think I play this video, we'd like to talk a bit about Secret's Vault Crypto Legacy. So Crypto Legacy offers a MPC-based secure cloud locker that helps with disaster recovery and inheritance planning for wallet seed phrases and important files. And the technology is our differentiator. The technology splits the seed phrase into multiple encrypted key shares, which are then distributed among selected guardians. In case of any disaster or loss, the owner can initiate a recovery request, and the guardians can provide the key shares to restore the seed phrase. So this ensures that the owner can recover their wallet and digital assets even if the original seed phrase is lost or destroyed. So with that being said, I'll quickly play this video, which explains a bit more on our Secrets Vault service. Yep, there's that. Adam, do you want me to take the questions, or would you like to continue with the talk track?
No, I want to hear what questions there are, because again, a lot of this was kind of my opinions or my thoughts about how to do this, because there just hasn't been enough history. So it's just a matter of logically thinking through all these different scenarios. So I want to hear what questions people might have.
Yeah. So I
This is
have
William. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yep, we can.
William.
Well, real quick, I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys hosting this webinar today. I am an estate planner. My title within my firm is Counsel for Digital Assets. So we're really making a push this year, hopefully this latter part of the decade, to really incorporate this into our daily practice. My two questions for you guys, and it's kind of under the same umbrella of liability. Um, One, am I interpreting this correctly? That this is essentially a multi-sig wallet that's encrypted and all of that, and essentially to move the say it's a death, the death of the asset holder. They pass away, and then we need to get it down to their beneficiaries or their heirs of their estate. Is it going to be required where we need three individuals will come forward, and those three individuals will be able to unlock that? Is that my understanding of how this will work?
One thing, I don't think, William, we're actually going to go too much into how the solution actually works. I think that's best left to set up a call with Shri, who's actually the founder of Crypto Legacy, and he would be happy to give you a demo. But I'll tell you what Crypto Legacy is in this case. It's not a wallet. Okay, so that's important to note. Crypto Legacy is not a wallet. It is you utilize other wallets or vault services or custodial solutions. This is actually using similar technology to how blockchain works and how keys work to actually just store the keys or store the seed phrases or store passwords, whatever you need it to be to pass on, such that you're not giving, putting your seed phrase in your will, or you're not giving it to your attorney, or you're not giving it to your family before you die, such that now you have to worry about them losing the seed phrase or something. Okay, this is I'm getting my seed phrase in there. It gets sharded, and stored again. We use cryptographic algorithms for that. I say we. I'm not actually a part of Crypto Legacy. I'm helping out with the education piece. But those get sharded. They then get stored cryptographically, such that there is only a certain sequence or only a certain number of people or certain people that are able to then put the secret back together in the right way, that your beneficiaries can then get that seed phrase, and then they can get into that wallet, whether it's a ledger or Trezor or something else. So again, this is not a wallet. This is a solution for getting secrets, essentially, from me to someone else, or to store them for my own benefit, but not in a way where it's just sitting on a password manager. So does that help at all, William?
Yeah, very well put. I appreciate that, Adam. I guess there's one brief follow-up I would have is, again, so I understand that it's designed to obfuscate my keys, my seed phrases. So I comprehend that. So, and I think my only concern and my client's concern would be if we have to utilize the Crypto Legacy to give us those seed phrases. And I think you hit on it earlier that just the best hygiene from that point is let's say again, someone passed away, we have their executor or trustee come forward, we access the seed phrase, and therefore we access the wallet. Best practice would be, again, because we probably generated that seed phrase on some sort of a device. We always assume it could be compromised, and the best hygiene from that point, once we've recovered the seed phrases, we would just move them into a new wallet with a new seed phrase. Is that kind of the logic there to ensure we don't have any foul play?
Yeah, that would always be my, as you said, hygiene, which I really like. I really like the way you put that. But yes, that would be the ideal process. Is we'll go through the death scenario, right? The ultimate disaster. I die. My daughter gets now through something like Crypto Legacy gets access to my seed phrase. Here's my ledger. She plugs it in. Hopefully, I have said I've either trained her in how to do this, or I say, here's someone you can trust to help you do this. They help her connect the thing, connect the wallet, put in the seed phrase, and then immediately next step is have another wallet ready, a clean wallet, move everything into the clean wallet, because my seed phrase has now been through some technology. It's been displayed on a screen. Someone like my attorney might have seen it at that point. Now we want to make it clean. Go set up a new wallet, move everything in. That would be the ideal hygiene if we're looking at a full, self-custody solution. there are other aspects, William, when we start talking about like the ultra high net worth and those kinds where the custody might live within, believe it or not, within some sort of centralized custodian like a Swiss bank or something, where all you're doing is transferring all you're doing is changing the trustees at that point, and the bank still might have custody. That's a kind of a different scenario. The scenario you and I are talking about is like kind of full self custody, where yes, I get them the keys, they open it up, and then they move everything out into a fresh wallet. They start over. Does that help?
Yeah, very well stated, Adam. I appreciate that insight, and again, I appreciate you guys taking the question.
Sure.
Also, William, I would like to tell you that we have a demo coming up on 25th of May, so you will be able to get more clarity on your questions in that particular demo.
We're going to close.
Wonderful. I'll more than likely attend that as well. I'm very interested in seeing how the proprietary technology kind of functions and what we can do outside of just the full estate death scenario, but more so, as we've said, the disaster scenarios that can plan out.
Yeah. And William, I put my email address in the chat there. If you want to send me an email, and we can chat more about this. And quite honestly, William, I'd like to hear more about what you all are doing and how you want to make this part of your practice. So we might have an offline conversation.
I very well might take you up on that. I appreciate it.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns, scenarios you've seen?
Was that personally towards me? I'm sorry.
No, anyone who's here.
I've enabled the mic for everyone. Anybody can speak at this point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Seem
looks
to
like
not have that many questions. I will, I'll let you know, and I think you're going to put up here the link for the demo. I have either fortunately or unfortunately been through several of these kind of disaster scenarios already. With my own, fortunately, I try to keep, as William says, good hygiene when it comes to my wallets and such. But I've had those moments where I feel like I accidentally interacted with some sort of smart contract that I'm a little wary of. I've had the scenarios where I have lost seed phrases. I've lost my phone, or my phone has gone dead. I've lost my laptop or something, and I've had to restore from all those. I've had to go through all those. And only one time have I lost a little bit of crypto in something like that, is where I clicked the wrong link, right? And someone then had access to my wallet for a few minutes, and I was able to shut it down pretty quickly. But I've fortunately or unfortunately been through a lot of these, so I think about it a lot. And I think for what you all are doing, whether you're a financial advisor or an estate attorney, it is going to be so important for clients to realize, for you to be able to help those clients and realize that it's not only, I mean, it is somewhat about death, disability, those kinds of things, but it's very much about the UI for crypto is such that things can go wrong while I'm alive, and my money can be sitting there. And if I haven't taken the right steps for disaster recovery planning, I won't have access to the money that is literally just sitting there. And that's a huge problem. And it's a problem we've seen with the user experience of crypto, that we as advisors, as guides, have the ability to help our clients solve. So we might as well do it. So with that, I will leave you with the code and link and such for the demo session.
So you can scan the QR code that's on your screen and register for the upcoming webinar. But in case you're unable to do that, or you don't have your mobiles with you, you will be redirected to the sign up page for the demo once the webinar ends. So that's helpful as well. I think, Adam, if you have anything to add, you can do, or else we can conclude this webinar if anybody does not have any questions.
I don't think I have anything to add. I appreciate everybody. I left my email address in the chat there if anyone wants to contact me and ask questions. learn more about crypto. If some of the things I said here don't make sense to you, then by all means, hit me up and we can try to get everyone educated if you need it. But based on the names here, I'm pretty sure that you all have a pretty good understanding. So I appreciate your time and attention.
Great. So before we end this webinar, I'd like to inform you all that we have a wait list for early beta customers. So please do sign up by visiting our website. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We truly, truly hope it was informative. I'll be sharing the link to sign up for the live demo in the Q&A section. And it's happening on 25th of May at 9 a.m. After the webinar ends, you will be redirected to the sign up page for the live demo registration. You just have to enter your email ID and your name, and that'll be it. In case you missed that, we'll also be sending you an email. So we've got you covered from every end. Thank you everyone for taking out your precious time and attending the webinar. And thank you, Adam, for solving all the queries and for the wonderful presentation. It is always a pleasure to have you with us and hope to have you again soon. So I think by this, we conclude today's session.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.